We begin CBS2 News at 11 with breaking news. A multi-car crash on the 405 right at Sunset in Brentwood.
That's right. Several lanes are closed. And Stu Mandel is live in Sky 2 with an update. Stu.
Pat, Jeff, the crash happened out here just south of Sunset, southbound 405 freeway, Brentwood area. 5 lanes of the 405 shut down, 1 lane open. 1 person sent to the hospital because of this wreck. You can see California Highway Patrol out there trying to clear the lanes. Let's take a look at that backup. Southbound 405 through the Sepulveda Pass. Expect up to 20-minute delays if you're going to be driving through this area. Then no determination or no exact time when they're going to reopen those lanes. Live in Sky 2 over Brentwood, Stu Mandel. Back to you two in the studio.
All right, Stu, thanks so much. Also breaking news now, officials in Northern California now say more than 600 people are missing following last week's deadly campfire. The death toll in that devastating campfire rises again as well.
And it could get even worse as firefighters continue to battle California's deadliest forest fire on record. CBS 2's Dave Bryan joins us now with more on this. It's a shocking update, Dave.
It is. Now, the hope is that a lot of these people just left the area. They were able to get away and just haven't communicated with anyone back home. That's the hope. The fire now is 40% contained. That's good news, too. But tonight's headline is the large jump in the number of people missing. The campfire is burning in Butte County, which is near the city of Chico. It's about 90 miles north of Sacramento. Tonight, hundreds of searchers and more than 20 dogs digging through what's left of Paradise, California, and there isn't much. They're looking for human remains amidst heaps of twisted metal and piles of ash. Tonight, officials say they found 7 additional bodies, bringing the death toll up to 63. Authorities say they have tentatively identified 53 of the remains.
We're waiting for DNA confirmation before we conclusively state who those individuals are, and that will allow us to then verify that information to the next of kin.
The sheriff's office is keeping a list of those who are still missing. Tonight, that list stands at 631, jumping by more than 500 people in the last 24 hours. The reason for the dramatic jump, authorities say they went back through all 911 calls and other reports of missing people over the past week. For about 100 people who made it out alive, tonight they are calling this Walmart parking lot in Chico home. That's where a makeshift tent city has been set up. 81-year-old Donald Hardin is one of the people who now call this parking lot home. He doesn't want to go to shelters because he has dogs, so he's sleeping in the parking lot.
Rough. I got arthritis that you wouldn't believe. I have to take pills to survive.
To gain a better perspective of how large the campfire is, NASA released this satellite image tonight showing the billowing smoke from space. Now, so far, almost 12,000 structures, including nearly 10,000 homes, have been destroyed. 52,000 people are evacuated tonight, and CAL FIRE has not officially determined the cause of the campfire, and it could be months before it's known. Pat and Jeff, back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Dave. And more breaking news. The Gardena Police Department is mourning one of its own tonight. Officer Toshio Hirai died after a crash in Harbor City on his way to work yesterday. The 34-year-old served the department for 12 years as a motorcycle officer, traffic investigator, and lead SWAT team member. Well, tonight the chief called him a devoted father, family man, and officer.
It's hard for me to imagine as the chief of police, as a member of the Gardena Police Department, not having Officer Hirai here today. He's a valued member. We loved him. He loved the community of Gardena. He had a passion for his job. I shed a lot of tears today as if Toshio was my own son.
Hirai died this evening. He leaves behind his wife and 2-year-old son. The LAPD is investigating the cause of the crash.
A week-long nightmare. First it was the Borderline Club massacre and then the Woolsey fire. And one Malibu family survived both deadly ordeals back to back.
Well, the Edson family's double dose of tragedy is both terrifying and inspiring.
Yeah, tonight, they say that they're just thankful to be alive.
And CBS 2's Tom Wade is live in Thousand Oaks outside the Borderline bar with this incredible story. Tom?
Yeah, that's right, Pat and Jeff. This family, one survived the borderline shooting, and then they lost their entire home in the fire. We'll have more on that story in just a second here. First, take a live look at the memorial here in Thousand Oaks. It is so powerful out here, just outside the Borderline nightclub. So many flowers, so many messages here. Also tonight, the widow of Sergeant Ron Helus came out here for the first time to see the scene where her husband gave his life to save others, and the survivors are so grateful.
The fire was everywhere.
Carmen Edmond describes her family's harrowing escape from Malibu last Thursday night as the fires raged around them. The frantic moments came barely 24 hours after her daughter Desiree survived the mass shooting inside the Borderline nightclub.
I was in panic mode since Wednesday night, since that phone call.
The Edmond family got to safety, but their Malibu home burned to the ground. 48 hours of horror for one family, but all of them kept their perspective. They all survived.
2 near-death experiences that just you don't expect.
Desiree spoke to us from out of state tonight. She's still processing what happened at Borderline and the fire.
I'm trying to stay as strong as possible for, as my family and my friends. And I'm trying to look at everything as positively as possible, even though it's pretty hard to do so in these types of situations.
For Desiree's family, they know their situation could be much worse.
12 people aren't going home, didn't go home, and Ron didn't go home. Neither did Justin, neither did Christina. All these people that were there and good people.
The fact is that we made it out alive. My sister survived, and we're here.
The Edmonds credit Sergeant Ron Helus for keeping their family whole. They attended his procession today.
It's really tragic that this happened in our city at Borderline, and that Ron had to pass. It's just tragic.
So powerful out here tonight. There is a wall of the photos of the fallen out here, and it is just very, very emotional out here to see these faces of these young people who were killed in such a horrific tragedy, a horrific mass shooting. And so many people continue to come out throughout the evening here in Thousand Oaks to pay their respects, as I said, including Ron Helus's widow, who came out here. It was a very emotional scene, obviously seeing this place, the place where her husband lost his life for the first time. Reporting live in Thousand Oaks, I'm Tom Waite, CBS2 News.
All right, Tom, and we're going to pick up right where you left off tonight. The Ventura County Sheriff's Sergeant, who lost his life while he was trying to stop the Borderline massacre, is in his final resting place after thousands came out to honor Ron Helus. And I mean law enforcement from all over packed at Calvary Community Church in Westlake Village to say goodbye. Helus was on the phone with his wife last week when he got the call about the shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks. Short time later, he dashed into the bar, confronted the shooter, and he was killed. He leaves behind a 24-year-old son, Jordan, and his wife of 30 years, Karen, who wrote a letter that was read at today's service.
I'm so proud of you and the kind of person you were. I will miss you and your hugs and our life together. Rest now, sweetie. Save a place up there for me, and I will see you again.
Helus was 54 years old, a 29-year veteran of law enforcement.
Well, a big surprise tonight in Malibu. The evacuation order was lifted in some neighborhoods, but other homeowners found themselves shut out of their streets. Many people are frustrated because they've been allowed to come and go for days, but when they left tonight, they returned to a hard closure. They're suddenly not being allowed back in because utility companies need to secure the area, we're told. Now, some say they have no place to spend the night, so they may have to sleep in their cars.
We had no warning. I left, my house totally exposed. My neighbors had surgery. The kids are there.
It's pretty frustrating considering they didn't tell us there's going to be a hard closure here, and we've been going back and forth all day. And all of a sudden they just closed it. I even left something on the stove.
Police are asking for cooperation since utility companies are still dealing with power outages, gas leaks, and water main issues. The good news is more closures should be lifted tomorrow.
It was a one-stop shop of resources for people affected by the fires. A new assistance center just opened up to help, and there are a lot of people who need that help right now. CBS 2's Rachel Kim is live in Thousand Oaks. She's at the Grant Brimhall Library and has details. Rachel.
Well, Jeff, this library will be home to the Assistance Center until Tuesday. Organizers say they know how overwhelming the process can be if your home was damaged, destroyed, or if you were significantly impacted by these fires. So they want to make it a lot easier. Eileen Mickens walked into the local assistance center almost a week after her possessions and home of 17 years in Malibu was destroyed by the fires.
I lost everything that I received from my mom, from my grandparents, from a baby grand piano to China.
Despite the loss of the things that are irreplaceable, Eileen must now focus on starting over with a new home. She brought a lot of questions.
Where to start? How to rebuild our home? How to afford rebuilding our home.
Eileen says she was able to get a lot of answers here. The County of Ventura and the City of Thousand Oaks opened the local assistance center today at the Grant Brimhall Library in Thousand Oaks.
We have the Department of Vital Records from the state. They can help get you some of the like marriage certificates, death certificates, those kinds of things that people have lost.
There's also information on things like debris removal, permits, housing and rental assistance, public health, property assessments, even services to replace your driver's license. If you plan on coming, you're asked to bring whatever ID and documents you still have.
FEMA is here, and so people that want to sign up for disaster assistance through FEMA and possible loans and grants, they're here for that.
This center is primarily for Ventura County residents. LA County is planning to open up one soon in the next few days. But if you're an LA County resident like Eileen, you can get state services here.
Just people need to know about this, that's all. Because to have everything in one location is really helpful.
So again, this assistance center will be here until Tuesday. Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, the hours will be 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. On the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the hours will be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Reporting live tonight in Thousand Oaks, Rachel Kim, CBS 2 News.
Well, President Trump will arrive in California Saturday to tour the Camp Fire and the Woolsey Fire at both ends of the state. The president was chided for his criticism of forest fire management, even though the Woolsey Fire happened in an urban area. The death toll is still climbing in both fires. The president has only come to California once since taking office. Well, yesterday, KCBS and KCAL partnered with the LA Rams and United Way to raise money for the victims of the Woolsey and Hill fires. And thanks to your generous donations, we raised more than $1.2 million to help in relief efforts.
And what's really cool is that you can still help the victims of the Woolsey and Hills fires. Donate by texting 2018 fires to 41444. You can also go online to, to cbsla.com/CBSLA-helps. Orange County's legendary orange curtain has turned blue tonight.
Yep, that's because the Democrats picked up their 5th congressional seat in California. The Associated Press declared Katie Porter winner of the 45th congressional race. She beat out incumbent Republican Mimi Walters by 2 points.
In the 39th district tonight, Democrat Gil Cisneros has moved ahead of Republican Young Kim for the first time since election night.
CBS 2 Orange County reporter Stacy Butler is live in Santa Ana, where the registrar is literally sorting this out. Stacy.
Yeah, Pat and Jeff, as the ballots continue to be counted here, the OC Registrar of Voters is making it very clear that not only is there full security by Orange County sheriffs around this building, he's also reminding everyone that there are a number of checks and measures in place to make sure that every ballot gets counted.
Those don't even match.
Intense scrutiny tonight at the OC Registrar of Voters.
Provisional, because we've been doing all provisional.
In provisional and vote-by-mail ballots still being counted.
Just put not return.
In a big upset for Republicans, the AP is reporting Democrat Katie Porter just won the 45th congressional district seat, beating incumbent Mimi Walters, who claimed voter fraud, suggesting tallies may have been tampered with. She was joined by Republican Young Kim, who questioned the validity of vote counts after she accused a supporter of Democrat Gil Cisneros of physical ballot tampering. The claim was unfounded.
They're making accusations against each other's camps that there have been ballot tampering among those observers, and there has been no evidence of that whatsoever.
Just tonight, Cisneros announced he's now hundreds of votes ahead of Young Kim. Veteran OC Congressman Dana Rohrabacher was the first to fall to Democrat Harley Ruda. OC Registrar Neil Kelly says both Republican and Democrat observers are at the registrar's office in force, holding ballot counters accountable. He says his office has increased security in and around the building until the very last ballot is counted.
I'll be the first to deal with an issue. If it comes up to ballot tampering or anything that we have evidence of, we will respond to it immediately.
And those counting ballots have been working 12-hour days. They're hoping to be done by Thanksgiving. Their deadline is December 6th. Pat and Jeff, back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Stacey. Now, a different kind of sold-out show at the Forum tonight. This one for First Lady Michelle Obama. And CBS2's Jeff Nguyen is live at Inglewood, where Mrs. Obama talked about her new book. Jeff.
Pat and Jeff, tonight we walked through here and asked a number of people, what do you call someone who can fill up the Forum? And the response we got was rock star.
I was kind of a feisty kid from day one.
Former First Lady Michelle Obama promoted her memoir titled Becoming to a sold-out crowd at the Forum in Inglewood. The book talks about her childhood on Chicago's South Side.
We lived in that neighborhood where if you were going to be outside and you were going to stay outside, you had to know you could handle yourself outside.
She reveals how she met Barack Obama at a law firm where she was his boss.
Michelle Obama really represents all of my ideals, all my hopes, all my dreams.
We caught a glimpse of former Lakers star Kobe Bryant and his wife here, but it was mostly women from different backgrounds who showed up.
She's intelligent, she's graceful, she's loving and kind.
And it's one of those things where she represents us, me, as a woman, as a strong woman. And with her filling up the arena, that's no surprise.
All of them moved by the story of a girl from humble beginnings to become First Lady. But Mrs. Obama says her toughness is something she learned from her father, who long ago taught her how to box.
It was never just my father and my brother. That when my brother learned something, I learned something.
And tonight was a second stop in Mrs. Obama's 10-city book tour. We are live at Inglewood. Jeff Nguyen, CBS 2 News.
All right, Jeff, thanks. From one heartwarming photo to 3 mugshots. What started as a feel-good story about a New Jersey couple who raised money for a homeless veteran, tonight is unraveling. It's a shocking twist that has all 3 facing criminal charges in what police say was a hoax from the start. The sob story began when Caitlin McClure said she ran out of gas along I-95 outside of Philadelphia, and Johnny Bobbitt offered her his last $20 to help fill up her gas. However, today, prosecutors in New Jersey say that was all a lie. Instead, McClure, her boyfriend, Mark D'Amico, and Bobbitt had actually met in a local casino, and together, they allegedly hatched a scam.
D'Amico, McClure, and Bobbitt conspired to pass off a fake, feel-good story that would compel donors to contribute to their cause. And it worked.
The scheme started to unravel this summer when Bobbitt accused the couple of spending the money on themselves. The investigation turned up evidence of a hoax. All 3 have been charged with conspiracy and theft by deception.
Well, just 2 weeks after our investigation exposed a dangerous problem with some MTA buses, local leaders have taken action. Investigative reporter David Goldstein shows us what they're doing.
After we exposed this MTA bus exploding in flames last August and found a graveyard of other buses that met a similar fate with burnt-out windows and charred and broken as if a bomb went off, the MTA was pressured to act. This week, 17 newer buses were delivered to at least temporarily replace some of the 52 older diesel buses that we found were still on the road.
Amazing. You know, all I can say is that it takes something like this to draw our attention.
LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis, who also sits on the MTA board, co-authored a motion to expedite replacement.
17, is that enough right now?
No, I think we need to quickly move and make sure that we get the whole 52, the entire number, exhausted and out.
The buses are part of Metro's older diesel fleet and are 18 years old. The buses are operated for MTA by MV Transportation. MTA says the replacement buses are temporary until new buses on order will start coming in next year. And the 17 are all they can come up with right now. But Supervisor Janice Hahn says that's not good enough.
Well, that's their job. You know, that's the Metro staff and executive director, that's their job to figure this out.
But until then, dozens of the older buses will still be on the roads.
We have to figure this out. The alternative is not acceptable. The alternative of continuing to have these old diesel buses that can catch fire on the road is not acceptable.
MTA told us they're replacing the diesel buses as quickly as they can, and they'll continue to look for ways to accelerate the full replacement of the older buses. In the newsroom, I'm David Goldstein, CBS 2 News.
All right, well, I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. I thought we heard about some rain in the forecast.
Yeah, it's kind of fall weather finally, Garth.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty good, and thankfully we've turned everything back on shore. Look at the moon out there.
Oh.
Nice, right? Is that nice to see without a cloud of smoke over the area, too? Everybody. We are tracking some rain. We'll show you that in just a second. It's all up in the air right now, but I think over the weekend at some point for the long weekend, we'll see a little bit of it. 62 degrees, winds are calm. Take a look at the temperatures. Nice out this evening. 48 Covina, 64 Santa Ana, and 58 out towards Oxnard. The humidity is what I'm super interested in. Everybody's starting to recover. What a huge, huge difference. And we're starting to push onshore right now for the winds just a little bit, but they're around into the interior. They're just a little bit mixed up there, but all in all, pretty nice for us. And over the next couple of days, things are going to change. Watch what comes in off the Pacific. Now, midweek, we get the beginning of that chance of some showers. But right now, it looks a little more, I think, like probably Friday. But like I said, it's a long way out. You can see the system starting to move. Nonetheless, I think we'll get a little bit of it over the weekend. At least right now, it looks like that. We'll keep you updated. Like I said, it is a long way off, but just a heads up for you as we progress towards Thanksgiving. But certainly, temperatures come down. We'll pick up some marine layer. Look at the temperatures tomorrow. We'll start to increase the marine layer. You'll get a little overcast southern LA County tomorrow, but more Saturday and definitely Sunday, Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday. There's a look at the IE, high deserts and mountains as well as things have finally settled down. Quickly, speaking of Thanksgiving, don't forget, a lot of people will not have homes and have places to be next week as people plan for Thanksgiving. Maybe keep that in your thoughts and hopefully maybe prepare some food for some people or take people that you might know that need some place to be. It's going to be a really tough one for a lot of people. So back to you guys.
That's for sure. You can imagine the shelters even passing out food as they normally do. Will be extra this time.
Yeah. Breaking the bank.
Yes, the iconic painting that just sold for a jaw-dropping amount. Plus this.
Just fired!
Ooh, caught on camera. A traffic stop explodes into a terrifying shootout.